for standing quite so close. I'm Jeanette Wright, and I'm the CEO of the State Librarian, and I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land here at Carilton Point and pay respects to the elders and their ancestors who came here many generations ago as this was a regular meeting place. It's historically a significant meeting and gathering and sharing place for Aboriginal people, and we're delighted to welcome you here. I also want to acknowledge and welcome Sally Ann Atkinson, Peter Racy, who's actually been very supportive of both the market and the event here today, and Peter Denham from the Museum of Brisbane. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us here today for the unveiling of this model sculpture by John Barlow Hudson. The State Library is committed to discovering, recording and sharing Queensland's history. And Expo 88 and John Barlow Hudson's sculptures form a significant part of that history. The Paradigm maquette is a sectional model of John Barlow Hudson's iconic artwork, Paradigm, one of two sculptures originally created for Expo 88. This model sculpture was gifted to the Museum of Brisbane and the people of Queensland by the artist and is on loan to the State Library for 5 years. And we thought it would be a brilliant way for us to publicise the fact that we have many of the materials from the Expo 88 in our collections, that this would draw attention to it. So we're very grateful to both John and the Museum of Brisbane for this generous loan. To speak more about Expo 88 and John Barlow Hudson's sculptures, I want to introduce former Lord Mayor of Brisbane and Chair of the Museum of Brisbane, Sally Ann Atkinson. But before she does that, I just want to tell you a little bit about her for those of you who don't know. Probably that's not many of you, but she has a wealth of professional and charitable accolades to her name. And most notable and relevant to today's event is her being elected to the Lord Mayoralty in 1985, making her the first female Lord Mayor of Brisbane. Sally Ann served as Lord Mayor through to 1991, was a key contributor to the success of Expo 88, and as someone who lived on a completely different part of Australia in 1988, I have to say that it made an impact. It put Brisbane on the map. And so it's wonderful to have you here today, Sally Ann, to officially unveil the Paradigm maquette.
Jeanette, thank you very much, and to many distinguished guests who are here this afternoon. And, it's a wonderful event this time. Here really wearing two hats, none of which I actually have on at the moment. The first, as Jeanette has mentioned, is I was Lord Mayor during Expo. A wonderful time for Brisbane, a very exciting time, and it's great that we have here this afternoon many people who are involved in Expo, but particularly Jim McCormack and John McGregor, who has carried the torch to keep Expo alive and well in all our hearts. And Brian, of course, from the Brisbane Greeters, who go around the city reminding people just exactly what we have. The other hat I wear is as the chairman of the inaugural chairman actually, of the Museum of Brisbane, and here today with Peter Denham, who's our director. And I think it's fantastic that these two events, if you like, have actually, or issues, or whatever you call them, have actually come together. Because here on this side, we are honouring Expo and reminding people about Expo. And of course, this building today, as you know, wasn't actually here. The library was a much smaller place, but it was actually there. And to link the library and Expo and the Museum of Brisbane together was one of the reasons I think that we wanted to really make sure that the statue was on, or the sculpture was on public view. And of course, the Museum of Brisbane, as you know, is at the top of City Hall, which has ceilings, and we wouldn't be able to show it to the advantage that it is shown here. So it's fantastic that we are able to lend it to you for 5 years, and if you're really nice to us, perhaps you'll be able to keep it for longer. I also wanted to particularly thank Peter Racy, who's turned into a cameraman for this afternoon, but it was thanks to Peter's generosity, his financial support, that we actually got the market at all. So, Peter, thank you not only for your financial support, but may I say your driving passion, which is something which really lends support to so many projects in the city. Just to say something about John Barlow Hudson, he, of course, is an internationally renowned sculptor. He began his life work in 1976. He's shown, if that's what you do, I think, with sculptures, in 26 countries. So we're very lucky that we had two of his works here during Expo. They were rather large, or they are rather large, and so the maquette, as you will know, is the sort of smaller example of that. It was built in that's what you said about the sculpture. I keep looking to my director to see if I'm using the right words. In 1988, it was created, I think, in 1988. This is the first time, or the first place, in which it has been publicly shown. I should say that John is very excited about today. He has sent us a message to tell us that he's excited and to thank us for what we're doing. He was here when he handed over his papers when was that, last year, sometime, and they're upstairs somewhere in this building. Where are they, Juliet? So,
they're in what I'm going to do is suggest everybody.
Oh, right, sorry.
Go up later.
Right, sorry.
They're in the John Oxley Library.
Yes, so people can, if they want to learn more about the actual details about him and about the sculpture and about Expo 88, because as Janetta said, it was an event that defined Brisbane in many ways. It would be sad to think that it was the only event that defined Brisbane, but it was an important part of our growing up, and certainly for people who were there, it's had many memories, and it gave a lot of people in Brisbane the confidence that previously they had rather lacked, when there was that sort of image of Brisbane being the Cinderella state, and all of a sudden, Queensland, all of a sudden, wow, we could do this, and we actually did. And I think perhaps, and Jim, I know you'll agree, that one of the major contributors to the success of Expo in the public consciousness was the fact that we had all these works of art, many of which are around the city in various places. But I'm just delighted that the State Library, because the library and the council, when I went into, were together, when I first went into the council in 1979, I had two passions, two which I already had. One was Brisbane, before I went in. The second, though, was libraries. And I was the chairman of the big library conference in the year before that. The other one I discovered was town planning, but that's another story. But the library has contributed so much to the city. I was very pleased recently, Jeanette, that when my 16-year-old grandson told me he comes here every Sunday to study, and I thought, what a good lad. I'm so impressed, but I then discovered that it's the social centre for teenagers in Brisbane. So I'm going to pop in one Sunday just to have a look and see who he's talking to. Anyhow, that's enough for me. We're here for the purpose to have a look at this, for me to unveil it, and I'm told something extraordinary magic is going to happen when I give the word. Do I tug the cloth? Yes. Right?
Yeah, that's it. You have to pretend.
You just had to get there and
Thank you so much. And the State Library is honoured to be the new home of John Barlow Hudson's work. And the Paradigm Maquette will complement John Barlow Hudson's personal papers that are now housed in the John Oxley Library, and will serve as a physical reminder of the legacy of Expo 88 in Queensland. And I'd like to pay a special mention to Peter Raisey, who, as you said, Sally Ann's turned into cameraman today. But he's gone above and beyond in assisting the State Library through the installation process and provided a generous donation to make today's unveiling a possibility. Please join us in continuing the celebration over some light refreshments just over here. And if you're interested in viewing John Barlow Hudson's personal papers today, please head over to the welcome desk. And I'm pointing to Erin, who's waving. And Erin will escort you to our white gloves room, where we have some of the maps and plans and materials available there. There, because it's a white gloves room, you'll be asked if long pair of white gloves and you'll be able to look through the collection. Otherwise, feel free to stay with us and have a little celebration. Thank you.